Here's an in-person with no name but a phone number, but he's in person. Here's a by phone but no phone, no name. And then CC.
Okay,
So,
maybe two.
yeah.
It's hard.
I mean, I would call this person because there's a phone number, but
Well, if this person
Yeah,
comes
actually.
in,
I already
then
have a
we'll ask them if
listing
that's their phone number.
and
Yeah.
2 buyers that I'm supposed to be working with. Plus my full-time, another deal. So it's gonna be nuts. Yeah.
or maybe they realized they clicked the wrong thing and then went back in.
Maybe I can-
Yeah, so we can call CCA and we'll know if they
Yeah.
Also, I was thinking we should probably spread out more, because we are really tight here. So I saw this Barb moved down and Julie moved down and then I
Well,
moved
Nick,
down.
there's Nick.
We got Nick Frozen.
We got the
Can we put him on
student.
the edge? Because we're not setting a good example if we're really close together.
Yeah, we can put it on our table.
Yeah. I looked around and went, ooh,
know what
maybe
you did
before
on
we
that.
get on display.
We have 3 on it.
Put a big table here.
Those two have two,
Yeah, let's
those
take
two
that
have
little
two.
one out.
Maybe take the little one right out of there, yeah. Good idea.
My phone.
Kind of like that.
Sit up straight. Gamble, Sid. Good. Okay, we are back, open session. And we've already had an approval of the agenda. However, I think we're gonna make another motion to, can we even do that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
These are gonna be
That's
pretty
not a good
quick.
idea.
Both of these will
Okay.
be quick.
So we're gonna do taking positive steps of service award presentations.
Yeah, so we have several. The first one is for Neil Rybel, who is here. Mr. Rybel was nominated for one. We felt he deserves the recognition for his solid efforts in keeping the building and grounds team and contracted service program for which he coordinates moving forward safely and positively through the course of this pandemic. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic school closure, Mr. Rybel has reported to work day after day on time and faithfully without falter. Mr. Rybel has dealt with numerous concerns not only from his team, but from the district during the pandemic, and he has continued to build a safe work environment for those who he leads. Further, his attention to detail in serving our district well as he continues to push his team for excellence as they work towards providing the safest and cleanest environment for our students, staff, and community. Mr. Rybel's leadership skills will continue to play a key part in the success and safety of our students returning to the building on January 19th. For all these reasons, Mr. Rybel was recommended for taking positive steps to service award. Here is a certificate for you. $100,000. Let's get a look.
Yeah, I was done a long time ago, I just wanted you to get it.
Anything you want to say?
I want to say thank you for everything. My guys, the whole maintenance crew and custodial department has been working diligently to get our buildings clean and sanitized, cleaned up. A lot of little projects that have been out there for a while that we've been trying to take care of. One big one I can tell you is our PAC at the high school. I got it figured out. We got every light working in the PAC, even the aisle lights. The tail lights are even working in it now. So it only took 3 buildings and grounds people, and that's been a big project for us to get. And a pandemic, yeah.
Well, did you remember to label the switches?
Yes, we do. They are all labeled even. Found the breaker
Neil,
box.
how many people do you have with you?
There's 9 of us altogether.
9?
So that's our next step. So we are going to also award Todd Hollerud and Pat Miller, our nighttime swing crew guys, who have been working hard to move items out of rooms and into storage to make rooms and classrooms for social distancing students. They are sanitizing areas after sporting events to help keep our students, coaches, and all others attending games safe. They've also been busy painting in all the buildings and making the areas look fantastic. Joe Forbes has helped get Josh Greeno familiar with our buildings since he has been hired. Joe does a fantastic job with our pool, making sure it is up and running for all to use, for everyone to use. He has also helped with electrical projects that we have done. Josh Greeno started here in October replacing Tony Sullivan. He's hit the floor running with several maintenance projects in all buildings. He's a great addition to our team. Together, Josh and Joe have done a great job catching up on maintenance items. And I don't know if Joe was talked about joining us maybe through Google Meet. Joe, are you out there? Maybe not. So we have a certificate and $100,000 for each of them. We will have Neil take all of those to, again, that's the swing crew and the maintenance department as well. So thank you for their great work. And finally, we want to recognize our daytime building custodians. From the start of the pandemic, they have been on site to make sure the essential systems of our districts were up and running. Through all the changes that have happened since March, they've responded to keep others and themselves as healthy as possible, done so day after day, and been a valuable member of the district's team. We are grateful for all their hard work. The daytime building custodians are at the primary school is Rick Brisky, elementary school OSC is Linda Hines, middle school Doug Gisline, and high school Scott Relke. So thanks to all their hard work.
Next on the agenda, we have a presentation on the CARES funds.
Yeah, so the presentation is more or less me kind of talking about the CARES Act. And so I didn't make this a really robust presentation. Maybe what can happen though is when we get closer to finalization of receiving all the revenues for the year and all of the expenses, we can outline that, whether that be in a formal board meeting like this or the annual meeting next year. But right now, we're more of an opportunity to discuss with you the funding that we currently have, the expenditures that we're planning, and then updating you with we are getting more revenues through the federal government through a subsidy. For this, we just don't know that amount yet. So I don't know if you have this memo or not. I'm just gonna read it, so this is basically be following along. Last summer, when the CARES Act funding came out, Lodi was notified that we would receive a little over $97,000 in federal subsidy to support whatever efforts we needed to put in place to manage the pandemic. From meetings that we had and initiatives that we felt are very important for us to carry out our operations and upcoming operations, bringing the kiddos back, things that we need to do and put in place to have a successful transition for children into the buildings. The estimated expenditures that we're looking at, we've saved some money on transportation this fall because we haven't run all of our routes. And the routes that we haven't run, the ones that are idle, we've paid 83.25% as an agreement to keep Cobuson afloat, keep them rolling because they have to pay people and pay their bills as well. But we are estimating that once we start double routes and additional services on January 19th and going forward, that at the end of the year we'll probably finish around $50,000 to $100,000 over budget. So that isn't the worst estimate in the world because the potential certainly exists for more than that, but that's what we're looking at for transportation at the end of the year. That's our estimate. We are hiring for, and have hired, I think they're on board now, for temporary but full-time subs, one in each building. And so approximately $30,000 by the time salary for half of a year and benefits are delivered, about $120,000-ish for those 4 subs. Additional cleaning services to keep our buildings at a place where we need them safety-wise. It's maybe a conservative effort, estimate or not, $25,000. Again, with cleaning services, that's one that is a big moving target. So at the end of the year, we'll be looking close at that budget to see where that ended up. General supplies, this one we have a running list. We started as a team, putting everything on a spreadsheet. I didn't provide that to you. We're at $50,000 right now, about $50,000, everything from sanitation stations to masks to anything that's general supplies. I outlined 2 plexiglass barriers and desk dividers. So we bought, I think, about 48, I think, from Edgerton School District, and then there's other dividers placed in the classrooms to protect our staff, so about $10,000 there. The impact on our budget this year is projected to be about $330,000 to $430,000 expenditure. Subtract about $97,000 out of that, so it could be in around that $250,000 range. Now, side notes. There are more subsidies coming to schools. We don't know what that is for Lodi. Certainly we're hopeful that it will cover any of these expenditures that are outlined. Another thing that the Finance and Facility Committee has been exploring is an ionization system. And so I'm sure if we go that route, that a presentation to the board so you all would understand exactly what that is, would happen. But right now, we're just more exploring. I think the Finance and Facility Committee would say that we're more of an investigation step right at this moment. And then currently, I think it's important for you to understand, and it's really an interesting budget year. I mean, this is a time of a life for a business manager, right? Not really seen anything like this before. Things are coming and going. But a current estimate does project us a couple $100,000 under budget through halfway in the year. So I am certainly hopeful that we will be close to our target, not too far off when it's all said and done, but certainly in 17 years of being a business manager, this is by far the weirdest year that I've went through. And as I said, just wrapping this up, if you have questions, but just wrapping this up, I think a more formal presentation to you on how this actually, unfolded, hopefully not unraveled, but unfolded when it's all said and done, so that you can get it up there and get it on a greater sheet of paper with more detail. But that's sort of an update at this moment.
Yeah, we just felt it was important that the board, obviously you hear about CARES funding and now you hear there's more money maybe possibly coming, like, well, what happened to the money that they received in the fall? So we kind of wanted to give you an idea. This is not, exhaustive list, right? We did additional training with staff. We bought a bunch of additional tech things for staff. So we just kind of wanted to give you an idea of some of the costs that districts have incurred, because I know there has been some talks like, wow, districts are saving a lot of money by going online. And that narrative is out there. And there's some areas we do, right? There's some areas, as you said, transportation, we did save some money. Our food service department, not. And other areas that we've had to increase costs. So just wanted to keep the board up to date and just give a brief overview, and again, as Brent talked about, like, in the future, give more real specific as we spend this money down. And when we find out what we get from the federal government, the new stimulus money that was passed right around the holiday time, we'll let the board know as well.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to public input. Public input. Purpose of the citizen input agenda item is for the public to provide comments on any agenda item or to publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. The amount of time allotted for each speaker will generally not exceed 5 minutes per person to allow all people who wish to speak an opportunity to be heard. However, the president may modify the time limits at his or her discretion. If the speaker has questions for the board, they'll be duly noted and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner. But the board cannot respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of the public input agenda item. As an additional reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. Citizen input is an important part of the board meeting agenda, and the board appreciates hearing from the community on issues concerning them and our school district. So David, I know I saw you on Google Meet. David Zilker. Yeah, unmute and then state your name and tell us what you want to say.
My name is David Zilker, and I've been teaching in Lodi for 25 years. So thank you very much for the opportunity to read a letter that I wrote to the board, and I appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to read it and everything that you have done for our school district, genuinely. Dear Mr. Breinig and Lodi School District board members. We are in a marathon that no one wants to be in. It's a marathon with no definite finish line. COVID fatigue is breaking down safety plans all around our country, and positive cases and deaths have never been higher. Please push back our blended start date for the health and well-being of our students and staff. It's never too late to make the right choice or alter plans, a valuable lesson we are always trying to teach our students. I understand putting a date on the calendar was important for the district to start to prepare for our students to return to school. As we have seen this year with COVID, nothing is written in stone except the names of loved ones lost. There are many reasons why it's in our best interest to change the date. Here are a few to please consider. 1, there are too many highly qualified and experienced teachers from Lodi stepping away from teaching our students. Thus, the quality will be greatly reduced for our kids. 2, established routines and relationships with teachers and students are going to be broken or changed up dramatically. What we are doing now is working, and we are bringing in small numbers of students that need additional help. We try to figure out what needs to be done, and if there's a real struggle in these really smaller groups, we have been doing a blended model all along. 3, the matrices that were established for a safe return to school have not been met. 4, the amount of holiday travel and added virus strains around the country are pushing infections and illnesses for our healthcare system to the breaking point. We are hopefully very close to having staff vaccinated, and then can more safely return and welcome our students back into the classroom. I have received 3 COVID letters in the last 3 days from the district office. We are not out of the woods yet. Please change the blended start date to at least the start of the 4th quarter, and then let's reevaluate again. The safety of students, staff, and community have been your top priority since the start. Don't break down that commitment now. Don't let COVID fatigue get you to quit this marathon so close to the finish line. And like I said, I've been greatly appreciative when I talk to other people in different districts and what's going on there and the lack of support. We have been very fortunate in Lodi here. You guys have done a great job, and I genuinely appreciate it. Talking to a sister-in-law of mine in New York who's a 7th grade science teacher, they've been doing a blended model for quite some time there. And so many teachers and students have gotten sick. My sister-in-law got COVID. One of the difficulties with that real blended model, a lot of kids, they're there and they're not there. They're supposed to be on Monday, Thursdays, and then all of a sudden they don't show up to class, much more than normal for being there than not being there. And the other thing is people are taking vacations, and then they're gone for a week. They go to Florida or some other place, and then all of a sudden they are back in town and they step right back into the classroom, and it has a dangerous effect. So once again, I greatly appreciate you giving me the opportunity to read this, and thank you for everything that you've done. But hopefully you do consider altering where we're going right now.
Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Move to call here. I need to dial 8, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's try this again. Your end mic?
Yes.
Mic's not working. Oh, maybe I have to hang this up. I just hung up on her.
Hello.
Hey, is this Cece?
Yes, it is.
Cece, it is Adam Steinberg with the Lodi School Board.
Yes.
It is time for you to state your name and tell us what you'd like to say.
Okay. My name is Cece Brown. I am a grandmother of 2 little boys who I have been helping to teach. Okay. So, my concern is the grades K through 5, only going 2.5 hours a day. Okay. The problem with this I see is they have, most of them, sometimes, not all of them, have older siblings who care for them when they get home from school. Okay. So now you got this little 9-year-old or 8-year-old coming home at 10:30 or 11 in the morning. Now, some parents are working from home, and I know somebody who works from home, and she takes her child to her mother's house during the day because she cannot work with her child there. So now when her daughter comes home during the day, this is going to be a disruption for her life. If the daughter was coming home at the same time that the older sibling would be, after going a full day of school, the older sibling would watch her if the mother was at work or if she was working from home. Okay? I find this to be an inconvenience, another inconvenience to the parents. Now, for myself, I don't know how the bus routes are going to work, you know, as for dropping the kids off, or will I have to run back and forth, because I get everything secondhand being the grandparent. But my biggest concern is these little kids that are going to be dismissed in the middle of the day, then you have to hurry up and clean the classroom to bring in another class. Why don't you do like the older siblings? They go a full day on Monday, they go a full day on Thursday with their brothers or sisters. And then the next alphabet set go on Tuesday and the next go on Friday. That's my concern. I'm not sure why it was broke down to 2.5 hours. My only thought on that is you're thinking that little kids need that repetitiveness every day.
Okay, thank you, Cece. I think we'll have someone call you and talk to you about that because we have outlined that many times.
Okay, that is it's just these little kids coming home in the middle of the day.
Yep.
That really bothers me, and especially as a grandmother. I'm seeing a bigger disruption for families being able to send their kids back because of that.
Okay.
And I did talk to somebody who goes to the Waterloo School. He's a teacher there. They have been going since fall. And if they get 3 cases or more in 1 week, they shut the school down for a week, and then they start up again. And it's something worth looking into because socially, these kids need to get back to school.
Okay, thank you for the input.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna try one more phone number here we don't have a name for, but we'll see what happens. Hi, my name is Adam Steinberg. I'm with the Lodi School Board. Did you sign up to give public input tonight at the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, could you, are you ready?
Yes, that's right. Yes, I am ready.
Okay, could you state your full name and then tell us what you'd like to tell us?
My name is Josh King. And then what was the thing?
What would you like to tell us? You're on speakerphone and you're on the public meeting right now.
Oh, well, I guess I was just trying to make sure that everything was good to go for my daughter. We're new, so I wasn't sure quite of everything that was, this whole virtual thing is new to us, so I guess.
So are you looking for instruction and how to go about making things happen? Is that what you're asking?
No, I guess I just got the email, and I guess this was just a thing that I thought that we had to do out of that.
No, actually, this is the public school board meeting, and you're actually giving public comment to the school board right now. So it's okay for the misunderstanding. Would you like someone from the office to give you a call to talk to you about what you need to do?
No, I mean, I think I got everything in order. I guess there's not really anything too important.
Okay.
I apologize, I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly okay. So,
Okay.
welcome to the school district.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, all right, thank you, Josh.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be meeting you soon.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
All righty, take care,
All
thank you.
right, bye-bye. Okay, next, we have the consent agenda items. Items in this section will be adopted as a group unless the board member requests a specific item to be removed from the consent agenda and addressed separately. So we have the approval of the minutes from December 14th meeting. We have the vouchers from the credit cards, checks, and the ACH withdrawals. We have no fundraiser requests. We have one fundraiser report for the FFA fruit sale. No field trip requests. Under committee recommendations for approval, we have quotes for Chromebooks, both lease and purchase. Under other, we have Ice Age Trail Advisor, sorry, I apologize. We have the Ice Age Trail Club Advisor Amendment. And then under resignations and retirements, we have middle school forensics coach, middle school special education assistant, and middle school administration assistant. Under co-curricular, we have middle school girls basketball coach, middle school volleyball coach, high school assistant volleyball coach, high school head boys basketball coach, and high school assistant boys basketball coach. Under community program crew, we have 1 new lifeguard. Under regular staff, we have a long-term permanent high school teacher substitute, long-term permanent elementary school OSC teacher substitute, middle school administrative assistant, a long-term sub for high school math, and a long-term sub for high school English. Under personnel other, we have leave without pay requests for Paskey, Aronson, Rashik, Evans, Tyson, and Carls.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with removing the Ice Age Trail item and the Chromebooks.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Stephen and a second by Bill. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we don't need to do roll call. If anyone's watching at home, we're all in person here tonight. No one is online. So we'll just take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes to passing everything but those 2 items.
Agreed, sorry.
Okay, so it passes 7-0. So now we can have an individual discussion about those 2 items. So let's talk about the Chromebook quotes.
Yeah, so we pulled the Chromebook quotes because there is an issue, a labor issue with the manufacturer that is making the Chromebooks that we were looking at moving forward with. So we are going to pull that item and bring a different quote back to the Facility and Finance Committee and then bring it back to the full board at our February meeting.
So in order to do that, we need someone to make a motion to table that motion.
I'll make a motion to table the Chromebook purchase.
I'll second.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0, so that is now tabled. Now let's talk about the Ice Age Trail. Where'd it go? Other, it's under other.
It's a 7 point.
Yeah, I got it, it's under other. So amendments to the Ice Age Trail Club.
Okay, wait, I need glasses.
So let's have a
Sure.
discussion about what this is first.
Yeah, so the board approved a pilot program to do an Ice Age Trail club, which happened this fall to allow one of our staff members to get kids together outside, where it's safe, do some socialization, but to hike, to do a walking club on the Ice Age Trail. Initially, we started with looking at, 6 hikes in the fall, 6 hikes in the spring, so, but it has really become a popular thing. So we have 33 students signed up, an average of about 25 kids showing up for each hike. When we first put this together, one of the things we did is the person who applied for the position, we placed them at first year level on a stipend. We really should have put them at a higher level because they've done other co-curricular activities, and that's typically what we do. If you've been involved in a lot of other co-curricular activities, we give you credit for that and place you at that higher level. So that is kind of the broad overview. We also looked at hiking the percentages up slightly for this position, and also part of that is we need to, regardless of the board's decision tonight, we're gonna need to get an assistant to help, because once you have 26 kids and you socially distance them out and you put somebody at the front of the line, we need to have another person to help supervise kids as we move forward. And again, we will go back at the end of this year and decide if we wanna make this a permanent fixture or not. Because it'll be interesting to see what happens after youth basketball is now started and other activities are starting up. Will this still be as popular? It may be, or may not be.
So my concern with this, as I talked with Vince earlier today, I just think that $1,000 for people walking, and again, I'm a walker, so I'm not against walking. I love exercise. I think it's great, but I think $1,000 is to start with, and I like the idea of a pilot program, but I think it needs to start at $1,000 at the $941.20 25. I just don't, I just think it's, I don't know, weird is a bad word, but I just don't think it's really something that we need to spend a lot of extra money on. I think it's a good opportunity for people to get out and walk, but, so let's say we have $1,000 and then we have another person in there that might be $1,000. We're spending $2,000 on kids taking 6 walks, 12 walks, 15 walks, I don't know how many there are. So to me, that's just a lot of money. And I understand it's a logistical deal when you need to stay 6 feet apart and you don't know what's coming from the front of the pack to the back of the pack. But I just think it's a lot of money to put in. And I also think when you start something, you start at the bottom. You start at the 0 level, 1 to 3 or whatever the lowest level is, and then you go from there, especially with the pilot. We haven't done this yet, so it would make most sense to me.
So just to clarify, it says in here that there will be a total of 26 hikes through the end of the year. So.
Yeah, and the other thing we talked about, and again, Shelley did give me a call today, one of the other items we talked about was, there is some organizational things that have to happen beforehand and during hikes and attendance and things of that nature that come in. And really the board can do several things. A, they can approve it as recommended. They could, approve, do nothing and it just stays right where the salary is and we move forward with the pilot as is. It wouldn't stop the pilot, it just keeps it moving forward. So that's really the two, or they could say that, yep, they would, or they would approve the bumping up the stipend, but they're still starting at that first level. So that's really probably the 3 options that you would have as a board moving forward.
So I don't know, I've never been on this one, I have no association with it or anyway, but the Summer Saunters program, I spent a number of years working with and doing that kind of thing. And there is in that huge amount of logistics, and there's time in the field where you're talking to kids and doing things with kids, and I would assume a lot of that is happening here also.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. It's not nearly as in-depth as Summer Saunters, right? Summer Saunters is a
No, there's
really
logistics
big,
about planning
right?
and all that is not happening with this, I'm sure.
And again, part of the idea behind this is that at some point they would like to go travel to other places on the Ice Age Trail. Right now with the pandemic and travel, it just doesn't make sense to do that. So I too would assume that there's some conversation going on there, but the main thing is to, A, exercise and get kids have the opportunity. So, because to be honest with you, I have a middle school daughter. The younger kids are the kids who are probably isolated the most, right? They're the ones who are the ones who are staying home, right? I have a senior in high school. He works, so at least he gets out of the house. He has the opportunity to do those things. My middle school daughter doesn't really have that opportunity. So the hiking club gives these middle school kids that opportunity. Now with youth basketball starting or some of those youth sports, now kids have some other additional opportunities through the school. So.
Well, I mean, I would say that, whether this is just, walking, anytime you're supervising students, you're responsible for everything that happens to them from the moment that they, engage in your activity. And it's a lot of time, and so what we're paying for is time and expertise, and we're also paying someone who has a lot of expertise, and it makes programs more successful when we have staff who are experienced and then incentivized to stick with the program. It sounds like the initial level was set to the same level as, say, homecoming advisor, which, these percentage levels have to do with the amount of time as well as expertise. So, I mean, yes, coaching football has a, different percentage because it is a bigger position and also a certain set of skills. But having that many hikes, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time and responsibility for kids. And whether there's a lot of programming involved or coaching involved, that, it is true that it's not that type of position. It may become more like that if it becomes a ongoing thing. So, I mean, I think that looking at just that it's walking is not, these are essentially field trips, like 26 field trips that someone is not only constructing but supervising.
Right, but there isn't a lot of coaching in the whole thing. You don't have, you have to get, I mean, obviously you have to do attendance, you have to have people that are set up, but it's not like coaching at a sport. It
Okay.
just, that's where I probably am coming
So,
from more than anything.
On the trail time, when you're walking on the trail during summer saunters, we were talking to students about their lives the entire time we were on the trail. So, and it changed depending on which student you were next to, having conversations with those kids, right? And you talked about all kinds of things, and family matters, and everything came up. So, there, in summer saunters, there's a huge amount of coaching going on, just speaking to those kids. So, can I ask a question? What are we paying right now? I didn't see it.
It would be 2%, so it'd be under the
941.
it'd be under the 941, a little less
So
than
let's
that.
just say 900?
Yeah.
And then the proposal is to go to is to go to
Is to go
1,300.
either to
Yeah, it's,
1100.
the proposal is to go to the highest level, to bump them up just a half a percentage and then go to the highest level for this person.
So it'd be a $400 increase is what we're talking about.
Do you have any idea how long these hikes occur? I mean, what are we talking, 20 minutes or 2 hours? or-
They're definitely over an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, the big thing about this is we started, like Vince said, with planning on doing 6 hikes. And due to the demand from the kids and how they really got into it, we've been doing them weekly or almost every week now. So that was just based on student need, we increased the number. So I would tell you that, you know, a big part of it, especially now during COVID, is we need to survey to find out who's coming.
Right.
Before they show up, we have to make sure that the screener's all done, you know, so that they, you know, per district requirements. So there's a number of logistical things this year and maybe into the future, depending on how it goes, that need to be done now compared to other co-curriculars in the past.
Well, what we're looking at now is if we need 2 people, then we're talking about $2,000, right?
I think we're going to 2 people no matter what, because we have so many. So that's gonna happen no matter what.
That's a safety kind of issue.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the amendments to the Ice Age Trail Club as they're presented.
I'll second.
So a motion by Stephen and a second by Barb. So now we can have discussion, which we've already been having, obviously, but.
I think this is exactly what we've been asking for all year, which is what the parents have been asking for, which is get kids out, get them in contact with adults. I think we are spending a lot of time on this, that it should be a no-brainer, and we get to review it again at the end of the year to set the priorities for what we're doing going forward. So let's approve it or not and move on.
Well, what do we have for salary? Still looking at $941 for 2 people?
No, it's a $400 increase for the one, and then adding an additional person.
And it would be posted, and so then the amount there
Right.
would be based on the experience of the person, right?
Yeah, we'd
Is
have
that
to
what-
post, we'd have to post the second position, right?
And so it could vary what we pay the other
Right.
person. Any further discussion? Okay, I guess we're gonna do a roll call vote. Bill?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Shelley?
No.
Julie?
Yes.
Barb?
Yes.
Yes, and then Adam says yes, so it's gonna pass 6-1.
Thank you for the discussion.
Yes? Always a good thing. Next, we move on to OSC's charter renewal for a
Yes.
5-year contract.
So OSC is asking us to renew their charter for 5 years. And it's up a little earlier than normal, and maybe, I don't know, Barb, if you want to talk a little bit about why we're here, and obviously the changes that are outlined.
I think Jen Morgan, who's
Jen
the
on?
current president,
There she is.
too, but
Yeah, Jen, do you want to speak to this?
I can start while we wait.
Yes, there she comes.
Am I on?
Yes,
You are,
you're on.
yes.
Hi, everybody. Yes, so I am the OSC Governance Board President now. And I think we had another year left on our charter. But the main change there that we are looking at is the change in the lottery procedure. last spring was different for a whole lot of reasons, but our previous charter stated that the lottery needed to be open during open enrollment. And so when open enrollment got pushed back because of the pandemic, so did our lottery. And we realized that that has a lot of effects on a lot of different people. OSC is just one. It affects placing third grade students in LES as well. So we decided, since we were requesting that change to our charter, that it would be a good time just to go ahead and renew it for the next 5 years.
Does anyone have any questions about the changes to the charter? Okay, can I get a motion to approve it then?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, get a motion by Shelley, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Barb, second by Barb. Motion by Shelley, second by Barb. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we're on to the 2020-2021 school reopening plan.
Yeah, so typically now is when I pull out a big PowerPoint, we spend about an hour and a half talking about school reopening. We just felt that it would be best for each of the principals to just kind of give you a brief overview of what's going on, update. It'll only be from 3 of the buildings. Mr. Pisani's under the weather, so he will not be joining us. So we will probably start with Ms. Fossbender, if she could share what's going on at the primary school.
Absolutely. And actually, a lot of these are happening at LES as well, so I can kind of speak for both of my tonight. So today and tomorrow are our goodbye days. So the teachers are planning some activities to kind of have some closure and just give kids a chance to celebrate that class that they had this previous fall. And then we have our hello days, so our new classes will start on Thursday and Friday. So the teachers can get a chance to really start to just build those relationships and foreshadow for students coming into the building what it's going to look like. On Friday, I sent out a video to all of the families that are coming into Blended and gave them video clips so that they could start to see what the building looks like and how they're going to get into the buildings, and just kind of laying out the daily schedule and what it's going to look like before and after school, just because we want to make sure we get all students where they need to go as safely and as quickly as possible. So we wanted to make sure to give them some details for that. We're waiting for the bus company to finish making sure they've got all the information in Infinite Campus, but I would expect in the next day or two that families will see that information in Infinite Campus, so that'll be really helpful there. And then just the last thing was, on Friday we did a practice cleaning. All the assistants were in, so we did practice going through the procedures to make sure the building is safe from morning to afternoon sessions. We wanted to make sure we could practice that and get it all in place,
So I'll ask one question of all the principals when they speak, and then so those are the pros, right? Everything's going well and everything's going great, and it's all gonna fall into place. Can you give us the cons also? I mean, do you see pitfalls? Do you see anything that's gonna happen or predict or?
No, I have all the confidence in the world in my staff, and they have been planning and preparing this for months going on. There's a lot of emotions. I know that my teachers, their classes that they had, those goodbye days, the relationships they built with the students, those are really important. And so I think the big piece is making sure that the students and families know that those relationships are never going to go away. Yes, it's going to maybe look a little bit different Thursday when we have some new classes, but we definitely want to make sure the kids have all kinds of relationships with everyone in the building, and so it's just more relationships. So I think it's the emotions that are tied to that right now we're just working through that.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, thank you, Amy.
The one thing I want to add, because I know it came up is in public input, is the reason we're at partial or half days at the elementary primary school level versus what we're doing at the middle school, high school level. And I got a phone call about this after the our newsletter went out. And the reason we're looking at that is really instructionally, right? The idea behind having kids come in, and we had a long discussion about having kids come in and follow what the high school, middle school are doing. But the concern was that it would put a lot on our parents on those off days because our teachers would not be available for instruction. Right now, our teachers are available and doing some online instruction and are connecting with kids when they're at home. Well, these teachers would be working with kids in the building, so there wouldn't have that availability. So that would put a lot of onus on parents to work on math and reading and writing at home without the teacher. Where with this half-day model, they are connecting with the teacher on all 4 of those days, working on those core academics, and then we can free them up to do some of the encore, like Phi-Ed, art, music, so they can connect with teachers in the afternoon as well. So we felt instructionally it was better for our students, and it took that burden off of parents. We also understand there is a burden when it comes to childcare and daycare, right? It's that push and pull as we continue to look at what we felt was best for our students moving forward. So we took all those things into consideration when we were moving forward with that. So just wanted to, I know that came up earlier and wanted to address why that decision was made.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. Do we have any people in the area that, I know I said before, I suggested that people maybe talk to the people who they used to go to games with or other things with so that they can help with childcare or that type of thing. Do we have people in the area that we know of that maybe aren't working full-time? If you're listening to our school board meeting now and you're not working full-time, do we have people that would be able to help out with things like that? I haven't beaten myself up over trying to come up with some ideas.
Yeah, and I think that is, a lot of that has happened, right? So even in the beginning of the year, like a lot of families potted kids or did different things like that with families connected and worked together to do that. And I think that's one of the nice things the board has given us. We've had 2 months, right, that we've been planning for this. So people have had that opportunity to work those things out with other families or with daycare providers and things of that nature. And if they need additional help, they can absolutely call their building principals and we can try to help facilitate things like that. But that, again, that's why it's been great that the board made this decision in November, because we've had 2 months for families to kind of walk through that process, especially at the primary elementary school level, because we had a discussion at that level, right? At that time, we were talking about the possibility of bringing them back in December. So they were ahead of where the middle school and high school were in preparation and coming back. So we surveyed them earlier and were able to do things a little more quickly at that level.
Well, I think people talk to me a lot because I was a former teacher, and there's a lot of kids around here that are students of mine, so a lot of people get in touch with me, so that's why I bring things up out here, is that's what I'm hearing from people, and then I regurgitate out what we just talked about. But I just think people need to know that this is one of the things we worry about more than anything else. And I really want people to know that this is something that we are concerned about, and we give it our best shot, but we can only do so much, and
There's no perfect schedule for a blended model, right? Or else, I used to say this when I was a high school principal, like, if there was a perfect high school schedule, every high school in the state of Wisconsin would be on it. There's not, right? So there's no perfect schedule. So you build around your priorities, and ours was instruction, right? How can we get the best quality instruction? Because that's a concern for us, is our kids, have been online for 300 days, right? They haven't been in the building. So how can we make sure that we're maximizing the time that we have with our kiddos? And so that's what we really looked at doing.
thank you.
Yeah. Middle school.
Yeah, so we've been working very hard, getting ready for January 19th. We put together, developed schedules, plans for the first few days of school, put specific safety protocols into place. One thing that we're doing right now that's taken a little bit more time than anticipated is working through some logistical issues regarding attendance and monitoring the screener that students have to fill out and how that will work, but I'm confident we will have something in place. Teachers have their rooms set up for instruction. Last week I sent out a reopening plan for families with a lot of information, and tomorrow I will be sharing a kind of a protocol expectation procedure document with our staff. We'll also review that on Wednesday to staff that want to. So I think there's an air of excitement and also some nervousness. I'm not going to lie about that. but for the most part, I think we are ready to go. One thing that I want to do is I really want to give a shout out to Pete Franklin, who is, with Linda Sanders retiring, she was in charge of all scheduling. Well, Pete has taken that on, and this has been quite a daunting task for him, but he's really risen to the challenge and is doing a great job. So in answer to your question,
Yes.
before you ask it, Adam, I would just say, we have all these plans in place, just, are they gonna work as we anticipate? But I feel like the staff has worked very hard. We're not afraid to make changes if we need to, so it's just a matter of going through it, seeing how it goes, and modifying what we need to change.
Okay.
But I feel pretty confident that.
It's good to hear that it's rigid, but it's not so rigid it can't flex,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, I've said it all along, and I say it to teachers, we can strive for perfection, but we have to realize we're gonna make mistakes and not be afraid to do that and make the changes to improve it.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions for Joe? We move to the other Joe.
Thanks, Adam. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, there are 0 cons at the high school. Okay. So ever since the decision was made by the board in December to change the requirement for winter athletes to remain online, there has been a little bit of a change as far as the number of students that are going to be coming into the building. That changed by about 10%. So we still have a little less than 50% of our students that are going to be coming into the building. Those 2 cohorts, Lodi and Pride, on Monday and Thursday, and Tuesday and Friday. So that did change just a little bit. It wasn't a major change, so we really didn't have to consider making some huge changes to our operations or anything. So we were able to do that. We sent messages out to all the families to make sure that they knew they were online or they were in the blended model. So we did that a couple weeks ago. And I'm glad we did that when we did, because there were still a few families that were a little confused about what they had signed up for. There have been a few changes since the deadline for them to sign up. So a few families have chosen to go online, and a few families we've allowed to come in blended. There was an information, Joe spoke about an information packet that was sent out to the middle school. We did the same thing last week. It was about a 9-page document. It's kind of like starting the beginning of the year, so there was lots of information that we had to share with families. So that went out along with a video, a video that was way too long that I had created to kind of clarify some things for families in that packet. The families that are going to go blended, they receive actually a paper copy of that plus an electronic copy, and the families that are staying online receive an electronic copy of that packet. Next week or actually not next week, it's this week, we are going to have 2 freshman walkthroughs. One is going to be tomorrow night and one is going to be Thursday. So freshman families and any new students to the high school have an opportunity to sign up to come in. We have our link crew, which is some of our juniors and seniors that will be here, about 8 to 10 juniors or seniors on each night to kind of give directions to families. So one of the biggest concern freshmen families had is basically just being in the building and knowing where their classes are. So we're gonna give them that opportunity from 6 to 8 p.m. tomorrow night and Thursday, just kind of walk through. Couple other things that we've been doing in operation, we've been talking about what it's going to look like from hour to hour here at the high school. We spent a lot of time on that with staff. We've solidified some things, and we feel like we're pretty ready to go. We have all of our signage up. I really want to thank our office staff, Don Schwartz and Bergeritz, Jackie, and Scott Wilkie, our custodian, for getting those things ready. I feel pretty comfortable that those are going to be, all the final details will be put in place before Monday. Amy mentioned something about the bus company. We are still working with the bus company to kind of finalize some things with them. We're going to have our last staff meeting this Wednesday just to go over a lot of questions that our staff might still have about starting on Tuesday. But I would say one of the cons is, I guess some of the unknowns and how things are going to go I really have a lot of confidence in our teachers. They're going to be live streaming most of their classes And I think with the help of Tyler Potter and technology and Gene Winter, making sure all of our staff have the PPE they need, teachers feel very comfortable about coming back into the building and being able to teach their students. I think that's about it. I think we're excited, and like Joe said, a little bit nervous about how things are gonna go. But again, one of the things that I know we're gonna do, and with the help of Jason Marshall, we're gonna think about this right away, is after a week, after 2 weeks, looking at what we're doing and what we're doing, and maybe making some changes if necessary. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Joe? No? Okay.
But,
I said no, sorry.
You were looking at me. So.
I did want to talk about
Yeah.
the broader issue.
Sure,
Okay?
yes.
I guess, I did want to bring up the topic of vaccinations.
Yes.
And if you've heard anything in particular, I'm concerned, you know, we heard from Mr. Zelker and Paula.
Good.
I have a lot of concern about the safety of teachers, even though I do feel that we are doing, short of not having anybody in the building. And I am really happy to hear from the different administrators, and I feel very confident in the staff and the administrators in doing everything as possible, but we're still talking about having adults, especially who may be at more risk in the buildings, especially in the middle and the high school level, in a time when we are not really okay in a metrics standpoint anywhere, and we have possible new variants that are coming up. And I know we have some, plans in place that if we start to get a higher percentage, but those higher percentages mean cases within our schools, so we no longer have any outside indicators when we might, like a tripwire where like somebody else is having trouble that we would know that I just have a hard time with, once we veered off from no metrics, I don't know. Nobody knows what to say about that, right? Like, because
Except what has come out since we set those metrics though too is a lot of research of that it's just not going through schools like we thought it would. It's just not. It's not spreading through schools.
Yeah, it's not, we're not seeing many schools become super spreader events because of the mitigation. It just, it doesn't mean the risk has gone down to zero, obviously.
No, I'm not implying that.
And I feel like we're getting really close to a vaccination scenario. And, as Mr. Zilker brought up, we might be really close to vaccinations. And should we wait for the older students a month? I'm just gonna put it out there because
you can.
Because I can, and if we knew when the vaccinations were gonna come through for teachers,
A whole different thing.
It could be in a month.
So original indication of vaccines were in about that time frame, but now current indications are that isn't gonna happen. And then some counties haven't even put in for their vaccinations. So would we go through, so our personnel would go through their individual HMO, which is dean or whatever, but could we go through Sudbury Hospital?
So, the vaccine is a good question. So there are different tiers, as everybody knows, of vaccine. Right now, they're on tier 1A, which is healthcare providers. As they get through healthcare providers, now they're looking at nursing homes and first responders and those type of people. There are people in schools who are in that tier 1A, school nurses, OT, PT, speech language people, special ed teachers who are working, providing health cares for students. But teachers are, for the most part, educators are in tier 1B. And there has been no plan put forward on how that's going to be done yet, at any level. So right now, how the Dane County is doing it for the tier 1A, is they're randomizing. Like, either if you can get through your healthcare provider, great. If you can't, we'll put your name in and we randomize who comes up, and that's the person who get this how many doses we have, this how many we pull out, and you're the people who are getting vaccinated. We will work with Sauk Prairie Hospital if they're to partner if possible. If they have that opportunity, and I know they would be willing if they have the opportunity, it just depends if they have the opportunity to do that. You know, we've done flu clinics with them in the past. I don't know if that would be allowed because, I mean, you're talking about the temperature of these, you know, the vaccine has to be kept.
You'd have to go there to get it.
Yeah, so we would have to probably go there, and we'd probably have to put together a plan. We would be willing to do all of that, if that's a possibility. But there has been no timeline put out for vaccinations at this point.
So who's in charge of the timeline right now? Do we have a clue?
Starts at the federal,
Yeah.
goes to the state,
Oh, good God.
and then it goes to the county.
All right.
And the federal's all changing, and so hopefully we'll get that into a different track and moving forward again. And then the state will know what they're doing, and then the counties will know what they're doing.
And again, part of the vaccine issue is, it's supply, right? So, the Pfizer one was the first one. The United States only bought so many of those because they were not part of Operation Warp Speed. So the federal government didn't give them money to help facilitate the creation of this vaccine. So they didn't have to give so many to the United States. The United States had to purchase them. The Moderna one, they were part of Operation Warp Speed, so there was an expectation, there was a link to how much that they had to come to the United States, because we help pay for those things. And there's also other vaccines that are in stage 3 trials that may be approved. Right now, only the Pfizer one is 16, right, and older. The Moderna one is 18 and older, and so there's none for children at this point. Johnson & Johnson, I believe, has one that they're testing on children, and I think it's in stage 3 trials as well. But the vaccine is it's an unknown. I mean, just that timeline is a great unknown, and it's hard for us to pin when we can bring back students and staff based on a timeline that's unknown.
Did Joe say only 50% of the high school kids are coming back?
Yes. So at the high school, there are many classes that are very small. And so there were some parents who had some concerns about that. Like, am I sending my student back and there'll only be 2 kids in their class? In some classes, yes, and in a certain class they may. But yes, under 50% of our high school students chose to come back in person. They will be blended. Right, there is no, you asked for the pitfalls before, I'd say the same pitfalls of what you're thinking about, right? It's the difficulty of implementing a blended learning instruction, right? It's a new step for us. That's a big step, and it's different. It's the safety, making sure our students and staff are safe and as safe as possible, but balancing that with the needs of our students and our staff. I mean, again, as I said before, our students have not been in in-person school for 300 days. So looking at that and the needs that we're trying to meet and trying to balance that. So we've been working all the time to balance those things. And then the concerns about consistency, right? That was our concern, number one concern when we talked about this fall with our education for our students, was we didn't want kids bouncing in and out, right? And that still is a concern, right? That somebody gets quarantined, or a class gets quarantined and then they're bounced into virtual, or a teacher's quarantined and they're bounced out to virtual, and then they'll have to provide education from afar while students are still here. Those are all valid concerns. There is no perfect plan, but I think as Barb mentioned, the science has shifted to us coming back, right? Dane County has probably been the most conservative, has been by far the most conservative county in the state, has opened up to having kids come back. And the national leaders, Dr. Fauci and other people, you hear them talk about kids coming back. Now, we've talked many times at this level what our community needs to do to make sure that they stay back, right? To make sure that you're not having community spread, right? So that then you're not interacting with somebody who could possibly bring that. So there's no great answer to your question, is what I'm saying, right? I can't say that it's going to be perfectly safe and that there's not going to be a spread of COVID. We've had very minimal spread at this point. We've also had not that many students in, but most districts have not had very much spread within their district.
But we also, I mean, people can stay offline if they want.
Yep.
So, Students can stay. Or students can stay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, students
Yep.
can stay offline if they
Yeah,
want.
staff don't have that choice. Some have made, we've made accommodations for staff when we can. So like, for example, at the lower levels, if we have an online, a group that needs to be taught online and somebody can be remote and do that, great. It's much more difficult at the high school, middle school level when you have to have somebody in that classroom to teach. So you're right, so that they're not having the choice. Students, families do, staff do. And regardless of when we come back, there is going to be anxiety, understandably. Excitement and anxiety, they're going together, right? People are excited about kids being back, but they're worried about kids being back. So am I, and I think so is the board.
Yes. Great. Anyone else have anything further for this? Okay, we're gonna move on to the alternate fall sports season.
Yeah, so we currently are running winter sports. We are running our boys and girls basketball teams, and wrestling have been going. We had a lively debate about that in late October. Those started and have been running. We also in the fall pushed back most of our fall sports to an alternate spring season, saying we would make that decision when that happens. We are kind of to that point. We need to start making that decision about what we're gonna do with spring sports, fall sports in the alternate spring season. So football, soccer, volleyball, those sports. And so I'm gonna turn it over to the high school administrative team, and they're just gonna, I know they have some presentation here, they're gonna run through a couple pieces of it, and then answer any questions you may have.
All right, so good evening, everybody. I'll start out with what we got. We have a presentation, so I'm thinking you guys will be able to pull that up on the screen for everybody, the PowerPoint.
We'll work on it. You can start though.
All right, so in summary, so we do have our winter sports going, so we've had varsity girls and JV2 girls basketball playing, varsity boys, JV2 boys and JV boys playing. We have had one cancellation in the girls program and 1 or 2 games in the boys program due to COVID issues with our opponents. Wrestling so far, they've competed in 4 duels. We have not had any competitions canceled at this point due to COVID concerns. Our dance team is currently performing. They've done 1 performance for their families. And middle school wrestling, they were able to complete their season. We did not have anything canceled in their season. Middle school boys basketball competed and completed their season. They had 6 games that they got in on their schedule without any cancellations for COVID concerns. And our middle school girls basketball just started up, and they will start competitions beginning the week of January 19th. So that's that slide. If we go to the next slide. So obviously, we have had some athletes who have tested positive. We have had some opponents who have tested positive, and therefore at different times we've had different players, different portions of teams that have had to be in the quarantine protocol due to the COVID, either exposure or their positive test. However, the positive that we have seen is that we have had very minimal transmission between any of our athletes and within our teams. So that's been one great thing that's occurred for us this winter. We have in place a return to play guidance that we'll go through in the next couple slides in a moment. Couple changes that we have. One, this fall we sent out a COVID screening form to all the fans that came to our meets and events. This winter, we have updated it that we are not sending that screener out. However, we still ask all of our fans as they're walking in the door, they see a sign, and we ask them to kind of read through that, and if they are feeling ill or they have symptoms or have been exposed that they do not attend the event. Athletes are still screened daily, our coaches are still screened daily, our opponents that we compete against are screened daily as well. So that's still in place, it's just no longer for the spectators. As far as hosting indoor events and having fans, the compliance of our Lodi fans has been very good. We've had to give a few reminders here and there, but otherwise, we've heard it's been really good. Sometimes it's been a little more challenging with the visiting teams just because they may be coming from different expectations at their school district, and ours just might be a little bit more stringent or a little different than what they had in place at their school. So that's kind of a summary of what we got for our winter sports so far. If you go to the next screen, Mr. Marshall's going to take over.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk just a little bit about the return to play process we put in for any athlete that's tested positive for COVID-19. So we put this together in conjunction, really Stockbury Healthcare, their medical advisory team put this together, and we've been implementing this through our athletic trainer. So really it's about, there are some concerns out there about possible heart issues and signs of myocarditis associated with COVID positive athletes. So as you can see on this first slide, COVID positive athlete is still going to have a 10-day quarantine period and is not allowed to start this return to play until they are symptom free. At that point, there's really a screening that happens with our athletic trainer. With anyone with a mild case of COVID-19, going to really an individualized plan for return to play. Asymptomatic athletes would also go through that sort of individualized plan. Anyone with a moderate to severe case of COVID-19 would need to go through their medical provider to get some medical clearance. And then they would go through a 7-day return to play process. So it's similar to our sort of concussion protocol to just make sure that they're clear of any cardiac issues prior to returning to competition. So we've already put this in place with our winter athletes. We just wanted to sort of keep you informed. If you go to the next slide, this gives you a really quick overview of what that return to play would look like. So each stage is monitored by our athletic trainer, and you're looking at limited exercise, decreased heart rate, decreased duration that they're allowed to be active, and then monitoring to slowly phase in to make sure that there's no sign of any sort of cardiac issue prior to them returning to competition. So again, this has been in place with our winter athletes, and thus far it's been going really well. It's something that we plan to continue using that guidance at Stockbury Healthcare going forward.
Okay, I'm going to take it, the next slide, which is considerations for all sports. So the 5 sports that we would have for our alternate fall sports season. The next 3 slides goes through all these considerations. I'm just going to talk about the highlights. They mostly talk about social distancing, practicing in pods, mitigation strategies for people coming to events and the number of people that can come to events, and then definitely mask wearing. So we're talking about some outdoor sports that are going to be taking place like football and soccer and cheer, and mask will be one of our athletes. So I'm going to allow that the board has this document. You can read through all these. These are very similar considerations that we use during winter sports. So if you go down to the more specific considerations for each sport, which is the next slide, and we'll start with swimming. So there are some specific considerations for swimming. No spectators will be allowed, so we do have a limit of 2 family members that can come to all of our winter sports, and we will have that and consider that for football, or we'd like to consider that for football, soccer, and volleyball. Swimming is a very small area in the pool. We will plan on screening all of those home meets. We also are going to increase the water sanitation levels to elevate chlorine levels to 2.0 ppm. We're going to eliminate the use of locker rooms whenever possible if needed, 2 people in each locker room at a time. Swimmers obviously will not wear face masks when they're swimming, but up to that point before they get onto the blocks, they'll have a mask on. Scheduling adjustments should be made to reduce the number of events, duration, and or number of participants present, and then no award ceremony. You go down to the next sport, which is football. Some of the same mitigation strategies. We are going to have a close face mask that the football players will wear underneath their helmets and underneath the regular face mask that's attached to their helmets. We're going to ask athletes to, like, for instance, kids, when they remove their mouth guards, they're going to make sure that they're using hand sanitizer, some of the things that we've done in other sports as far as making sure that we're clean and making sure we're washing our hands. We're going to consider social distancing and potting during practice. Football should be cleaned, disinfected frequently, and then the number of players on the sideline will be limited to maximize social distancing during games. We go down to the next sport, which is volleyball, which is one of our very few indoor sports during this season. Again, face coverings. We're not going to share equipment. Side-by-side courts. Usually we have side-by-side courts with a JV and a freshman volleyball game going on at the same time. We're not going to do that. We're going to try to avoid team huddling, some of the things that we've done with basketball indoors. Teams usually switch benches. We're not going to do that. And then volleyball will be cleaned. We move down to soccer, which is an outdoor sport, obviously. We're going to ask our athletes to wear face coverings. They will be worn at all times. Again, sanitation equipment. If locker rooms are used, we're going to expect them to be socially distanced within those locker rooms. And then finally, the last sport is consideration for cheer. And again, won't be making sure that we're cleaning the items that they're going to be using for cheer, like mats, use proper physical distancing, like we talked about with all of our sports. Avoid congregating before, during, and after events. It's one of the things that we struggle with a little bit during our basketball games. We want to get our fans out of the building, and that's been a little bit of a struggle because they want to congregate, they want to talk, but we've been trying to get them out as quickly as possible. We consider that for all of our sports that are moving to this spring as far as practice is concerned. And that is about it. So those are the sports specific to alternate fall to spring.
All right, the next slide is some information that I received from the WIA regarding schools that participated in the traditional season this fall. So for volleyball, we're going to have 138 teams that are playing in this spring alternate season here. I think the biggest takeaway is that they did do a tournament series at the end of the season, and 93% of all those schools were still playing and able to compete during the playoff time. Girls swimming, if you notice there, 89% of the teams competed. That number dropped a little bit. Some schools chose not to compete in a big multi-team event because they had some concerns with how it was being handled at that point. So schools didn't participate, and that might be why the number is a little bit lower. And football was very similar as well. 75% participated in the tournament series. What seemed to happen in football is with fewer teams playing in the kind of an alternate season-ending tournament, they will kind of group some schools close together, and other schools that they paired for playing a tournament game were really far away. So some schools, after they found out their initial pairing was, decided to not play, and they dropped out of the tournament because they didn't want to travel so far, or because they didn't want to play a same team that they had played multiple times. And what they were allowed to do is they were able to schedule a different non-conference opponent and play another game instead. So that's why that's at 75%. Boys soccer, 91% of the teams were still playing at tournament time. Were there ups and downs in all of those sports, and were there COVID cases and teams shut down at times? Yes. But overwhelmingly from AP that I've talked to and feedback that we've gotten is it was successful. It was a good thing for their athletes and for their school districts. So we think that we can put our strategies into place and hopefully have a successful season as well.
So with all that being said, we did throw 3 options out there that we thought were viable for you to consider. The first, allowing all alternate fall sports to meet practice and compete per our district and WIA considerations. The option to cancel the alternate fall sports seasons. And then there is time to postpone that decision to February. Swimming is scheduled to start that evening. We feel like over the next 2 months or so, we can really dig in with these coaches and put together plans that I think are going to allow these sports to operate in the safest way possible. Are there any questions that you all have for us?
I have a question. If we approve this and swimming goes ahead, and I know it's not a huge amount of students, but since every other sport, parents have the option to attend, thank you. Do we, or should we, or can we offer like live streaming it into the commons or into an area of the high school that they can still somewhat feel like they're attending, or if they're bringing their kid up for it, they can just stay?
Excellent suggestion.
Yeah, I think anytime that we would have to try to figure out a way to live stream those events, right? We figured out a way to live stream now basketball. We can live stream wrestling. Swimming would be something, we don't have a camera in there now. We'd have to figure out whether that's Facebook Live or some other different way to stream that for parents to have the opportunity to watch their child compete. So we would have to work on that, yeah. It would probably not be the same as a camera mounted somewhere. It'd probably be somebody handheld camera, but we would stream it, try to stream it.
So this is Bill. You asked me if parents could come into the building
Yeah, I'm
and
asking
stream it so they can watch it while they're in the building?
Yes. It was just a thought I had, because, I don't know, I mean, I know it's not the same as attending in person, but if you were driving in from somewhere to take your kid to the game anyways, rather than having to quick drive back home or sit in your car and watch it. And I know we're talking about a handful of parents, but it just seems a little bit of a kind of an equitable thing to do if we can.
Could we make a viewing area that has like plexiglass up in front of it and would be situated by a door that, I don't know.
The pool's that big.
Yeah.
6 feet.
Or somehow have a viewing area through a window.
And parents might not be interested. I was just thinking, if you're going to be live streaming it anyways, if you can set up a spot for them to already watch it in the high school.
Yeah, in the presentation, they said swimming would be live streamed, but if that's not happening.
No, it is, yeah, I think that's the plan, is the live stream swimming.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan would be probably use an iPad and use the Facebook Live website. When I talked with the coaches, probably from, if you can envision the pool, kind of the shallow end near the hot tub side. So probably being in that area to try to get as much of the pool as possible. Again, it's not going to be the best shot. You know, obviously the best shot would probably a camera high up on the wall, but we wanted to have some way of showing heat to people that couldn't be there.
Right, and then you would live stream that over our service?
No, we would send out to the schools and to our parents, our opponents, just how to like get onto Facebook Live to watch it that way.
Got it.
That's what we've been doing with our freshman basketball games and with the wrestling and some of our away events. That's how they've been doing that.
Okay. Can I put on the LGI, Tyler?
Yeah, we could look at the LGI as a possibility. We just have to make sure we had enough space.
Right, you would ask parents, and if nobody wants it,
Yeah, I mean, nobody might want
move
to
on.
do this either. I just think it's,
We can offer it. We just need to make sure we clean it, right? Because we're gonna use that space during the day.
Right.
For kids, so, as an opportunity that they would have to sit and socially distance and watch swimming from in there. That's a possibility.
But they could also use their device.
They could.
Possibly.
Yeah. We can look into that.
Hey Sue, can you share with the board just what the plan is for middle school volleyball? That's the only thing impacted, and I know it's a little bit different than any of these other sports.
Yeah, sorry we didn't have any more specifics on that in the presentation, but middle school volleyball right now, we have interest in about 25 kids in 7th and 8th grade playing middle school volleyball. So in our survey, when we asked for the numbers, we told parents that it would be a short season, so probably the end of February, once middle school basketball is done, and going up through spring break, which is the end of March. So only about a month for a season. However, I've not found any opponents to compete against at this point in time. And we did let parents know and families know that that might be an option, is that it might just be practicing and scrimmaging or competing against our own classmates. Just because so many schools in our area that we normally compete against did offer volleyball during the traditional season this fall. And then when I reached out to the other schools, many of them are not offering the middle school sports, or they're in Dane County and they're just kind of getting started with some of their high school stuff, and I think they don't know for sure if they're gonna have middle school yet or not. So, I will continue to try to schedule some games and events for them where I can find possible, but I can't guarantee that they'll have any opponents from other school districts right now.
So is it true that they approve or disapprove swimming right now, and the other ones can wait 1 month?
You could, yeah, absolutely.
And there would be no issues with those sports?
There wouldn't be. So those are the three options, is you can approve them all now, you could just approve swimming now. You could say we're not doing any of them. So really, that's the options moving forward.
I got a motion I'd like to make.
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we approve all fall sports for spring now, with the ability to review, I'm gonna do this, to review how we are doing as we return back to school at our February meeting. So making it the motion to do it now so everybody can get working, but unlike other decisions we've made, give the board the opportunity to say, no, we're not, if things aren't going well.
Second.
Well done.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Bill. Any further discussion on that motion?
Yeah, that gives everybody a chance to plan again. It's important.
I agree.
Lets people know where we're at.
That includes swimming, so they can't start till after that.
No, everybody's.
They can start, but that night we might go.
We're shutting you down?
I doubt it, but we might.
Any other discussion? Okay, take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0.
Thanks, high school administrative team, appreciate it.
Okay, we're on to board self-evaluation. So this is the first year the board will evaluate itself.
This is the first time ever?
Yes,
Probably should have told you that.
Thanks, Laura.
Sorry.
officially.
Another thing from COVID.
Say that
Just
like
for
that,
you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was something that we needed to do, so sorry for doing it. So it had two parts. It had a, how well are we do we think we're doing? And then what can we do from there, moving on forward? I don't know, do you want to do an overview or not?
Yeah, so I probably put together a summary just to try to help the board walk through this, right? Because there's a lot of information there. So when I looked at the evaluation tool, well, there's two pieces. I'm gonna start with the last piece. So when the board discussed last time when we met about the possibility, like we didn't know if we liked this tool, right? So I have gathered some other samples. So part of the discussion should be like, what didn't you like about the tool? What would you like to see in a future tool? And then I think that needs to go to the policy committee. That doesn't need to go here. But so if there's something, so I have a stack of other self-evaluation, board self-evaluation. Some of them are the exact same one that we just did. But that can go there. So that should be part of the discussion. The other piece was I looked at, overall, the board rated itself fairly high when you went through, and I think the pieces that weren't rated quite as high when you went through the checklist, rating yourself 1 through 4, were areas impacted by COVID. right? That, well, we weren't able to go to this as much as we'd like to, and so some of those things. But what I looked at, really focused at, was some of the comments that the board members made, and they really kind of came down to, 4 areas. One was communication, the desire to increase your communication with the community, gather more input from staff, and understand the daily life of teachers. So I put some possible next steps if the board wants to look at that. Develop a process where a board member could shadow a teacher or other staff member for a day. Develop a community question and answer video chat process. We've done that from the administrative level, like with the building levels. I've done it with parents a couple times, but that might be a process you may want to leverage, because we've not had, as you've talked about earlier, you've not had the opportunity since last March to have a group of community members and have a community meeting. And then having the school district of Lodi communication to different stakeholders be part of the strategic planning process. And I think that will be obviously part of that. So that links into that. The second one was strategic planning. That came up several different times, and that's on the agenda for us to approve that process tonight. So I think that makes sense. Understanding student demographics, and it was one of the things that came up, and that I think came out of our Dane County Equity meeting, and I think the possible next step there would be a presentation on that topic at a future board meeting, where we can just talk about what's the demographic makeup of our student body. I don't think that would be a long presentation, but I think it would be very insightful for the board to do. And then the last one was instructional programming and data. Again, that's something that Dr. Carls has been sharing at the curriculum committee level. So again, some possible next steps would be have more regular reporting on this area at the board. Again, I think it's during the strategic planning process, we are gonna take a deeper dive in this area. There's no question about it, which will lead to a more consistent reporting process probably across the district. And then schedule an administrative board retreat. We really haven't been able to do that. Typically, we've done that in a January timeframe as well, but trying to get everybody, it's hard enough to get, this is the first time we've had all of you together. Right. Now to double that amount of people together hasn't really worked. So that's something we could look at as well. So
We all are here in human form.
I know. So that was just my summary, my 10,000, 30,000 foot view of it. I just wanted to kind of try to help coordinate that discussion, and I'll put it back on the board where you want to go next.
So there are a few areas where we do rate ourselves a little lower. Let's have a little discussion on those areas. Okay? I don't want to pass those by because we agreed that they are a lower area. So attending WASB workshops and meetings. Is there a reason why all of us are not attending those meetings or going to those things? Yes, because of COVID. Many of us have been on the board for a long time and have not attended those meetings.
As a first-year person, it's a lot to take in.
Right.
Coming to these meetings. I mean, and maybe this is probably just an exceptional year because we've had so many meetings.
We have had double meetings.
I mean, this on
meetings.
top of committee meetings, I just can't wrap my head around all of the other things right now.
So for this year,
it's
just a
too
difficult
much.
thing to do.
I would say for any year, we are a very active board.
Yes.
None of us on this board only go to board meetings and committee meetings. We all take part in the school district. We all help out in the schools. We all have special projects. And what it means to go to those other training events means, A, they need to be very valuable to us, which frankly, most of them don't. I mean, I'll say it this way, they don't look that great. I'm sure the ones that I've been to have been okay. But they have to be very valuable to get me to not do the things that I'm doing in the school district to help the school district directly. And B, it's a timing thing. I think, again, we're very active. We're a very active board. So I think it's a give and take, and yeah.
I think the other thing to add on to that is we have a STEAM lab. We have generally great internet connection. We have so many groups in this area, and so we all have been active and stuff. So I think when I talk to other people, they're like, oh, we don't have that, we don't have that, what else do you have there? Because we have so many things here in Lodi that I think other, especially music friends of mine, are like, you get to do this, you've gone to that, what else have you done? So I think that's pretty cool.
Okay, well, those opportunities are out there, especially for new board members. They cover everything that a new board member would want or need. I know you attended some of those when you were new.
I have done some, like some of the legal stuff, and that was very informative.
Okay.
It's just,
Right, there's many
I think if
options.
it was a different year,
Okay.
Yeah.
I would definitely have been more
Well,
interested.
and then a year when we can go to the WASB convention and it's like a set amount of time where you can devote 100% of your time for 3 days,
Yeah, that's been very valuable. Yeah.
I think that's been really, really great. And we'll still have that, it's just, I get the feeling it's not gonna be quite as, it's not gonna be the same when
No.
we're doing it virtually from our homes, but we're gonna
Okay, so
try.
we'll see how that one changes over time. The next one is right below it. I read school publications sent to my home, so we get a magazine from WASB. I get more of them because I'm the president than you guys get. We also get the newsletter from the school. Is there any other publications? We get individual policy ones when something changes, or a legal one when something changes. We get those too. People don't find those as valuable to read, go through?
I will say, when I read this question, after it came right after the previous question, I
Yep.
took it as I read the WASB
That's
and
kinda what I took it too.
outside district publications, and the district stuff that comes, yeah, I read
Okay,
all of that.
good, okay.
But I don't always thoroughly read all of the other stuff. So I think maybe if that question was somewhere different in the survey, I wouldn't have associated it with WASB.
Okay. I do know that as magazines come, and I peruse through what is in there, the table of contents, and I will read an article that is pertinent, but many of the articles that are in there are stuff we've already done or covered or doesn't apply to us, or, so.
Can I give a
Yes.
little bit of perspective
Yes.
here, since I have access to the WASB?
Yeah.
If there's something you wanna know about, please tell me. I'll send it along. It will appear in some kind of a format to give information. But they're trying to communicate with people not knowing
What they
what the
need.
people need.
I think their emails are more helpful than the
Yes.
magazine.
Yeah.
And I generally always, and I can also search for those, too, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
when it's in your email, you can search for, oh, I think there was a legal article on
Yep.
whatever.
Well, and just the heart of what Bill just said is they're trying to communicate with everybody in the state, and it's not all gonna be pertinent, and it doesn't mean that we have to read everything that comes to us. And we do like you do, you
Yeah.
know, it's right behind the boy's life in my house, right? I read that first and then the WASB. Sometimes I start the fire with the WASB one, but I just learned to do, but.
Don't tell Bill.
Yeah, no, I think it's not meant to all be pertinent to us. It's meant to be a buffet that we go through and say, here's the things we like. The one thing that kind of hit me with this is that we oftentimes, and I think you get some more, as a clerk, you get some more,
Yep.
as a treasurer, we get some more, and then we all get it again from Vince on the emails. But sometimes we don't, and that's the hard part, is you gotta look through every email that comes, because sometimes it's like, oh, I haven't seen this, and sometimes it's, oh, I've gotten this 5 times already. And that's just, again, that's them pushing out everything all the time, it's hard.
Well, and that would be beneficial for me to know, right? So if there's things that you're getting from me that you're getting from other sources, let me know that, because then I won't forward in that your way, right?
It's just hard to tell.
Yeah, but if I can recognize a pattern at times, like I don't wanna fill up your inbox any more than I like my inbox filled up, because that's part of my role is to try to, you know, well, yeah, I mean, just make sure, not fill up your, but make sure that hey, this is something really important that I think you should look at, versus, well, everything I get, I forward on, right? I try to collate there and go through those
Knowing
things.
that is very valuable. So if we're getting it at something you think is valuable.
Typically when I go through it, I see it, I see it's something that's valuable, or it's just, again, not that you have to read everything that I send you, even through my weekly notes, but it's just like, hey, these are some articles on, like, as we've gone through this whole thing, on research on both sides of this, you know, boy, you should bring kids back. No, you shouldn't be. Like, here's some pros and cons to those different things. And just trying to make it aware so you have it to your fingertips, so you don't have to search it.
Good to know.
Okay, so visiting schools within a district, that's obviously low because COVID. And then informing the community I am informed about community feelings towards the schools. We rated ourselves a little bit lower. And I think this year we've had a lot of information from community members, so.
Yeah, but you get more information from people who are willing to come and
Yes.
talk to, like.
Definitely.
So overall, do you really know? Because most people aren't gonna say, gonna say.
Well, in our citizen input, there's been it winds up with us being the middle ground. People will come and they'll present and they're way off to one side, and the next person comes in and they're 180 degrees. Mathematically couldn't be any farther apart. Oftentimes speaking on the same thing, so that puts us dead in the middle. So we don't get
A lot of the people who are in the middle don't talk to us.
that's what I was trying to come up with.
Yes.
Actually, usually the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so if somebody's upset on one side or the other, could be the same challenge, those are the people that usually come and say something. Everybody else kind of takes it for what it is, or ignores it.
And surveying is hard, it's having a really, really well-designed survey that gets the information you want and that gives people the opportunity to say what they want. It makes it easy for them to say what they want. It's really challenging.
It is.
But, as we're talking about strategic planning and we have more community involvement, that'll be a really good opportunity, especially as the dust settles a bit from this year, I hope, to, very purposefully get more community input in a good way that we can use.
Well, until things calm a little bit, it's going to be nearly impossible to do strategic planning.
Well, yeah, I think, hopefully the time of the most, highest emotions where we really had no idea what was happening, hopefully that is behind us. Having said that.
Hopefully we're going on the other side.
Hopefully, right, that we don't have huge surprises coming forward.
Knock on wood.
I mean, just so that, because we've been in this, we're in this now, we are more accustomed to thinking about what it's like to live in a pandemic, so hopefully we will move forward and things will become more normal rather than less.
So I'm not gonna go through all of these, but I do wanna hit 11, which is, I take every opportunity to write or make personal contacts and tell people about their schools.
This one, I guess, confused me, am I supposed to go out campaigning for this?
I think it's written very poorly, but I think it got to the issue of, are you telling people about what we're doing here in Lodi? No.
Yes, as they, I don't know, every opportunity, so if I'm at a school function, I'm supposed to.
Back when we had school function.
Right. Again, so COVID was gonna put a damper on this.
I think it's a strangely worded question
Yeah,
anyway, so going forward, we should probably maybe clarify that
Let's maybe
question a
clarify,
little bit.
okay.
Maybe that, I think it's every opportunity. I'm sorry, sometimes I just wanna go watch my kid wrestle and I don't wanna have a huge conversation with everybody about what's going on in the school.
Okay, so let's move to that one. I attend PTO meetings, concerts, plays, athletic contests, and other school events.
Not lately.
Yeah, and so, did people answer that under the permission of COVID? No, I'm not doing it.
What number are you looking at?
24.
24, all the way towards the end.
I guess I answered it as I want to do more, in a normal time, I feel like I need to prioritize that more. Now, especially now that I'm not just attending all my son's sports now, I would like to do better with that once we have spectators and so
I
forth.
think we'd like to go to all of them. So are we ever meeting our expectation? No.
Well, it's a time constraint. You could be gone every night.
Yes, like some people.
There isn't enough time in the
You
world.
can't go to everyone, right? It's the idea of popping in
To do
and
it
being
regularly,
at different activities and having your face seen and just seeing how a basketball game and how, it's important at times just to see how things are going. So when you hear about, somebody comes and talks to you about a program, you can say, you know, you kind of have a background in that area. Or if somebody comes and tells you all the theater lights are on and you're like, why is that a big deal? Or Stephen Ricks goes, oh my God, that's a huge deal, right? Because he's been in there. So,
And at one point, we had a discussion about maybe we should, I think we had even talked about, like, maybe we should have a board meeting at each of the schools. We should rotate, or
Yes.
we should, you know, get to the schools more. And then that way, parents whose kids are in those schools and teachers, you know, or staff in those schools would have an easier opportunity to talk to us, maybe in an informal setting before the meeting, you know, that kind of thing.
So, in districts I've worked in before, at least once a year, the board members, not all of them, but some of them came and visited every school during the day. And then also held listening sessions with every school too.
I think that would be.
So we could have a meeting in each building and start it at 4:30 to 5:30 as a listening session, and then anyone in it, or 3:30, whatever the right time is, right? After school, where the board is gonna be in this building on that day, come from your class when you're done and say what you wanna say, they'll be there.
But that's happened quite a bit when I was a teacher in school.
The board would come to the school?
Yeah, or would be at different schools.
Barbara, you saying the whole board was there or just a board member?
Well, during the visits, it wasn't the full board.
Right.
It was whoever was available. Usually it was like the superintendent maybe and then a couple board members.
For a listening
It wasn't
session?
always the full board, no. Because
Yeah.
it was usually right after school.
Yeah, I think it'd be difficult to have the whole
Yeah,
board.
no, it wasn't
I
the
mean,
whole
just
board.
to do that. But I could see, yeah, absolutely having a listening session where you take a couple board members and go and pick a building. So everybody gets one building, you know, and you can even rotate them throughout the year, you know, as you go through. And do something after school. The hard part about doing board meetings there is we lose the technology, right? Right now, everybody's watching on YouTube.
I think that was just something we had kind of were like.
No, I
let's
agree.
do it,
We,
but-
you know,
We'd even said like, you know,
It's like-
yeah, sometimes if something's on your schedule, you'll do it, but otherwise you're just like, oh, I should go to the new primary school and I should, you know, I could go anytime I want, and I'm sure, but like, you know, Amy wouldn't, it doesn't happen. So like if you said, all right, you know, Angie, you're assigned to the primary school this year, why don't you know?
it would be easier to have committee meetings then,
Oh, that'd be fun.
right? So you could do committee meetings at different levels or walkthroughs. Like, I know I've been in districts where you've done like building walkthroughs once a year, the whole board walk through each of the buildings, you know, and the maintenance department would talk you through like what are some of the issues that are going on. The principal would be there. That's a possibility as well. You could schedule something like that if you wanted to.
If your, I cannot talk today. If your idea, which isn't the word I'm looking for, but is to go connect with staff, it makes more sense to have listening sessions after school than to move the board meeting.
Sure.
They're not gonna come to them. I
No,
don't
no,
mean to insult our staff at all.
They're not.
No,
No,
I-
no.
They're
I
not
think we
going
had
to come
just
back to
said,
work
hey,
at
then we'd all
7
be
or
there,
6:30
but-
for a board
Right.
meeting.
Now
just
we got all
because we're
fancy
there.
cameras and stuff, so.
But if we could consider, right, have a discussion about moving committee meetings, and then you'll have 3 board members in a place where teachers could come talk to them. Maybe it won't work because we can't get off that early, right? Some of us can't leave as early and get there as early, but maybe we can try and make it work and see what happens. It's not gonna happen until COVID's over anyway.
But, you know, if it's on our radar as a
Yes.
priority that we need to get out and hear more,
Well, clearly we do, because we're saying we do.
yes, then let's do that.
Bill?
Facilities has done walkthroughs over the years quite a bit.
Of the facilities?
Because that's what we do, you know, you're talking about something, well, what's it look like? How's it working? Let's go look.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will do, like, portion of our meeting, and then we'll go do a walkthrough last, so that when we're done walking through, then we're done.
Good idea.
Okay, and then the last one is budgeting. So over half the board is not familiar with school budgeting.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all. I mean, and I sit with Brent for hours and like,
I went to some really long presentations at the WSB convention. It's very complex.
It is very complex. That is true.
I guess I'm kind of thinking of it as like state funding, you know, folding into that. And it's like PhD level.
There was a point in time where I literally went in and went through, when I had the treasurer job, and went through every bill and wrote down, what is this?
Right.
Why are we spending this much money? And then someone got elected to answer all those questions. But then I learned, I got a sense for what was normal and got a feel for it, you know, where's all this money going? I know that was a point of discussion tonight. We're spending X amount of money for a person to do this. Where's that all going? It gave me some sense of accountability, some grounding in it.
So WASB does have regular meetings on this topic for the state level and the bigger level. So those are easily searchable and findable, and you can go to those.
It's just, part of this has to do with how the question is worded, like, I don't know that I'm ever gonna answer, I always understand the budgeting process of the school, and the next one too, do I always understand everything about the curriculum?
Graduation,
No, I mean, I don't.
Right.
You know, but I think maybe just the questions, do I have a working understanding?
Do you understand what you need to understand of the budget to make decisions?
Yeah.
I know there was one question in here about, do you attend every board meeting?
Right.
It's kind of like, that's not possible.
Right.
But again, the rating scale's weird for that, right? Some of these are like yes, no questions, and you're supposed to put them on a rarely, seldom, never, you know, frequently kind of scale.
And, right, and then like, I think I'll tend to like, be like, well, I haven't done that 100% of the time, 99%, so I obviously can't answer it always.
So
Why don't we suffice it to say that we just need to revise this?
we will, the policy will go through this and revise it. So.
I think we said that last month
Good
before
luck
we
with that.
did it.
No, we had to start somewhere,
Thanks.
so it
Can't
was good.
wait.
It was good that we got
Oh,
this far.
policies.
So now the other half of this, which Vince already went through, is moving forward. Did he address all of the issues that we put down under the comment section? Did you feel like everything you wrote in there is gonna be addressed and we're gonna find a way to move forward on that?
Yes.
So all of our comments are not in front of us. He went through and summarized them and put together, we can attack these, we can attack these, we can attack these. So was there anything missing from the stuff that we're gonna move forward on? Because we're gonna move forward on those other things. Does that make sense?
I looked for themes, right? I didn't look for every
No, of
specific
course.
question, so.
So I'm giving these guys
Yep. No,
an
absolutely.
opportunity, if something was missed in those themes, to add to the themes.
Well, there was a comment about, and again, I have nothing to compare this to. I know this is a very abnormal year.
Right.
About, you know, the meetings being very long.
Yes.
We cover a lot in meetings. I know other districts do 2 meetings a month, and they're shorter, and they break it up. I don't know if that's ever been a conversation, if it's something people have to.
Multiple
last
times.
year, yeah.
So the reason we have consent agenda from committees is committees can move things through to consent agenda without coming to the full board and having it
Right.
done. And we have not been relying on that during COVID. Prior to COVID, we were relying on that a lot more, so. So it did shorten meetings, that did shorten meetings, that one thing.
In prior with COVID, we've had a lot of presentations, right? I mean,
Yes.
school reopening, as I kind of joked as we started, has been an hour and 15-minute beginning of the meeting, pretty much.
Every month.
Today was 40 minutes. You know, that's one of the things that it just has been on every agenda.
These meetings have been substantially longer this year, ever
Yes.
since you came off the board.
We've had more of them, twice as many, and
I
they've
know, I
been longer.
contribute to it with
I
all the
mean-
talking too, but, and I wasn't complaining.
No, no.
It's just
No, no.
I've
No,
just
yeah.
been in various districts and seen how other people do it and just, period. And I mean, I value the conversation. I think we have very great conversation. It's just, I kind of have to chuckle because we kind of looked at tonight's agenda, we're like, oh, this will be super easy, and we're 3 hours in,
Yeah, I
and we're
agree.
still not done.
Yeah.
We used to start later, we started earlier.
Throwing it out there. All right, I'm gonna hold you all to it. I heard you say, after COVID, short and sweet.
Shorter.
Well, shorter.
Shorter.
All right, where are we at?
we are ready to move on unless anybody has any further discussion.
The only item I would add for that the policy committee should think about as well is, do you want any other feedback from somebody else in this board itself?
You guys should really look at a 360 review.
That's what I'm
No, we
talking
will.
about.
We will.
Because this is,
I'm just saying that there's other pieces where you take a part of that. So let's do something that the policy committee
But it was a
think
starting
about.
point,
Right.
right?
no, it really wasn't. It was more, I mean, I'm sorry to be critical about it, but this is what I do all day long. This was not a good starting point.
The comment section was good. If this board was a 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3 board, many of these questions would have pertained very well to that kind of
So
board.
you're not on the policy committee though, right? Or-
No, nope, and in fact, I've only got 4 more meetings
Well,
left, so you
yeah,
guys do
but
whatever you
you're the
want
one
to do.
who has expertise in this, you just said you did, so could you help with
I would be
making
happy to
it a
help.
good?
He's gonna be at the policy committee meeting.
Okay, well, there we go.
He's gonna be a write-in candidate and then be on the policy committee.
Oh.
And I also want to state something that when I was a teacher, there was a year that we had almost all the votes for 4-3.
Yes.
When I was a teacher. I was appalled as a teacher, going, what is the matter with that group that every vote was 4-3? Bill would remember too.
I could explain that to you, but you don't
No,
want to be here.
takes
Not
too
right
long.
now.
No. Just know that we did have a board that made, it was awful. And that was me as a teacher, looking at the replies they made, was ridiculous. Okay, next.
Okay, moving on to open enrollment, which will be a fast one.
Are we open and are
Don't
we
say that
enrolling?
before it starts.
Yeah,
That's all we have to
so
do
we
is
just,
approve this
this
every
is
year.
something we have to do on a yearly basis, so we just look for approval.
I move we approve the op.
No, you have to read that.
Oh, man. Which one?
805.
Yeah, motion per criteria outlined in the board education policy 423, public school and open enrollment as required under SPI 36.04, parent 2, Wisconsin Administration Code, SPI 3606, 5A, Wisconsin statute, you've got to be kidding me. S
Not a statute.
118.51A, the Board of Education for the School District of Lodi hereby adopts the administrative designated regular and special open enrollment education spaces for the 2021 school year. Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Motion by Bill, second by Stephen. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Did you get the, you gotta be kidding me part?
I do, yeah. That too.
Now we move on to strategic planning. This one has a little bit of time.
Yeah, so strategic planning is something that I talked about extensively when I was interviewed for this position. Again, this is in Vince's district, or the Board of Education's district, it's the community's district. And putting together a process where we can identify the community's priorities and then move forward on those priorities. And I think that's something that's very important. So I met with the Facility Finance Committee to talk about how the best way to go ahead and to find somebody to facilitate this process. They felt it would be best if Adam, as the board president, and I met with facilitators. So we met with Brad Saran last week, and he has put together a proposal, and that which is attached here. And I recommend that we move forward with Bradford Saran as our facilitator for the strategic planning process.
And I would also recommend that.
So what do we need to do?
I will make a motion to approve the proposal, timeline, and costs submitted by BDSC for the strategic planning process for the school district of Lodi.
I'll second.
A motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Any further discussion?
So then how do you schedule something like that, knowing where we are versus where we want to go?
Just like we're doing these.
Yeah, we'll start with a smaller group, like putting together, trying to identify stakeholders, and then if we need to, depending on where we are with COVID. Again, probably the bigger meetings you're looking at, community meetings, is this summer, like having them at some time this summer. So there's a lot of work that goes in identifying like who those people need to be and the steps in that process, and that's what we need to start doing. that make sense?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, and then I just need to take a vote, right? Discussion is done. Sorry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. State Education Convention is coming up.
Yeah, so the board had talked about getting together and meeting next Thursday for dinner.
I think that's a couple Thursdays away.
Oh, a couple Thursdays, sorry, you're right, the 21st?
No, it's next Thursday.
No, it's next Thursday.
What's the date?
Sneaking up on you.
A week from Thursday.
Thank you.
What's
So,
the date? I'm sorry, I need the
next
date.
Thursday, the 21st.
21st.
So the State Education Conference is virtually held starting next Wednesday, the 20th through the 22nd. The question is, do we want to get together in person and have dinner? That's kind of what we talked about, but obviously, that was a month ago, and with COVID and everything else, do you still want to do that, or you just want to get together virtually and have a discussion about what you watched throughout the day?
I would argue for virtual, because taking off masks and eating, I mean, we could get together this way and do it with masks on, but taking them off and eating is just not a good idea right now.
Well, we can sit 6 feet away.
Can. Most of the COVID that we're seeing in the community is coming from restaurants and bars and people getting together and taking masks off. That's where it's
But they're
coming from.
not that far away.
True. Could spread out around, yeah, but then it's in the room.
Or, well, the one thing about meeting virtually, especially when it's a free-form kind of thing, is that you can't, like, one person can talk. That's
Right.
like the problem, whereas like, we're sitting right here, can see each other, Barb
That
could
is
jump
true.
in and
Yep.
contradict me or whatever.
That is true.
Or I could throw you a left loop.
Well-
So I guess I'm just gonna argue for an in-person meeting, maybe not eating,
Right.
but like hanging out and talking about what we saw throughout the day, which is what we would do over a meal.
Right.
Maybe we just eat first.
But we would do it here.
Here or in the
We
library.
could do the high school library.
High school
You could
library.
spread out a lot more,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But maybe you do it without, as I said, maybe you come after dinner, and just we come and meet after the fact.
On the 21st.
On the 21st, is what we talked about was using that date, because you have 2 days of the convention, and that last day is a half a day. And you're not gonna probably wanna get together on a Friday night.
And it'll be fresh.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like the only time we really have kind of a, like, get to know
Social
each other a
chill.
little bit, social, kind of talk about ideas in a real free-form kind of, oh, I heard this really cool thing, or what do you guys think? And it's,
Do we have
I
a
think
time?
it's-
Do we want a time?
5 p.m.
Well, but if you're gonna eat, not eat,
Not eat, got it, 6
Six.
p.m.
you're probably gonna push it back a little bit.
6.
6?
6 works? And we'll do it at the high school library?
Yep.
That'd be the best, so that you have more space, you can,
What's the matter, Bill?
Is that you don't like it, or is that you hurt?
Leg cramp.
Okay.
Sorry.
He's going down, he's going down.
Everything Vince said, you're like,
I would be going down if I wasn't sitting down.
So, we will post that meeting, obviously, just like we do this normally, like I mentioned, let people know we're getting together. We won't be having agenda items, we'll just be talking through.
We'll just be humans.
Yes, humans only.
January 21st, just humans at 6 p.m. in the library. Bah,
Any other discussion?
love it.
Did we want to mention any of the items for the voting for the delegate?
That would be done now, if you would like our input on those items, yes.
What I thought I would do is just read through what they are, the 10, and then if anyone has a question on what they are
Okay.
or wants more information, we can
So
delve into it.
How about this,
Or-
in future years,
Yeah.
those get put into here so we can read them,
Oh, okay,
okay? In future years,
okay.
so go ahead. What are they this year?
Yeah. First one is a 1-cent sales tax for school infrastructure, technology, and tax relief, basically asking for new monies. Broadband access, money for that. Enrollment, hold harmless. Has to do with revenue limits. Special education flexibility to address emergencies is, oops, I skipped one. 4 is instruction on indigenous tribes.
They brought that one last year and it didn't fly.
Do we have this anywhere?
No.
Can we get
We had, because we were delegates.
it? Maybe it's better that we read it and then.
I mean, I can email or we can get a copy. I think there's probably a link on WASP's.
Or I can scan them.
Yeah.
If you
There's a
can
copy, I can scan it.
find out where it is and then send it to all the board members.
Yeah, and then if you
We could type commentary
want
to it,
further
you.
information or
Directly to you.
are for or against or whatever, yeah. Okay, so
Cool. Thank you. I think that'll be better than us trying to figure out what it all means right now.
And then whoever's the delegate next year, if it's you, Julie, or wherever it ends up, try to get that in here ahead of time. Then we'll come to this meeting knowing them all and have a discussion about them. Because it happened last year too, where they didn't get in here and we didn't get to know them. So, and in prior years, it always was in here. So. Okay, school board election update.
Just again to make you aware that we have 3 seats open, right? Stevens, Angie's, and Shelley's. Stephen and Shelley unfortunately are not running again. But I think it's been mentioned that they both could be writing candidates if you'd like them to be. We have, Angie has filed for paperwork for continuing candidacy. Christy McMorris has filed paperwork by the deadline to be a candidate. So we only have 2 named candidates for 3 seats. We do have one person, Julie Burkholder, has filed as a registered write-in candidate. But since there is an open seat that no one's competing for, anybody can write in. You don't have to be a registered write-in candidate. If there was, for example, 3 seats and now you wanted to be a write-in candidate, 3 candidates for 3 seats, then you would have to be a registered write-in candidate for you to be counted. But anybody can be a write-in candidate when you have an open seat, so.
But if you are considering if you're considering that you are gonna put your name out there as a write-in candidate, then you should be filing a financial statement to be a registered. Because otherwise, you're not following the election laws.
So let's make this a little clearer, because the newspaper will listen to this recording and other people may listen to this recording. So if anyone out there wants to be a write-in candidate, please file the correct paperwork to do that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and you can do that through the district office.
Yep.
Just come into the district office and they'll take care of you.
We will.
Okay. Any other thing on that?
That's it.
We have no first policy readings. We have no second policy readings. We do have one gift and donation. Very nice one.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept with great gratitude the donation of $3,400 from the Lodi Optimist Club towards the Heritage Park project.
Second.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Barb. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Lodi Optimist Club.
Optimists are awesome.
Administrative reports, Lodi Middle School and technology.
Yeah, I'll keep this real brief. One thing, if any of you have an opportunity to get over to the middle school, I'd really like you to take a look at the MLK gallery walk that Abby Baxter put together. It's right outside of her office. Really a cool project, and she does a lot of these for the building. I know it's tough right now with COVID, but with the kids coming back, it'll be something that we can utilize with them. And the only other thing
Because we want to make it a short walk through that building, where in that building is it?
So do you know, if you come in the building and turn, we call it the north hallway, right away when you come down, it may be halfway down the hall on your right-hand side.
So in the doors, take the first left and halfway down.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
And the last thing, I did include it in my board report, but I just want to publicly thank her. Jessie Lane is moving on to bigger and better things, and she's been there the entire time I've been there. Really has been a rock in the office. Just want to thank her for everything that she's done and wish her nothing but success moving forward. But like I said, just wanted to publicly acknowledge her. She will definitely be missed at the middle school.
Okay, thank you. Lodi High School, Joe.
Thanks, Adam. There's just a couple highlights of my administrative report I wanna bring up. I did mention in our reopening talk that we are gonna have a couple front open house walkthroughs this week, so Tuesday and Thursday. I wanna thank Carrie Kurska for helping me find some new kids. We're gonna have about 18 kids in the building that are gonna help freshman families kind of navigate where they need to go from class to class Tuesday and Thursday. I also want to mention something about the advocates. So we've had some students that have been putting together some videos with the help of Renee Potter, our advocate advisor. Every week they've been really good, just kind of updating some of the things that have been going on at the high school. And they just recently finished the advocate for publication, which they're hoping to hand out when students come back on the 19th. So there are some students that I do want to mention that put a lot of time and effort in writing articles and putting this together. So Amelia Hyder, Finn Melcher, Krista Mayberry, Michelle McMahon, Brady Ziegler, Grayson Schmidt, Trey Schrader, Nora Lee, and Anna Volk. And then also our two advocate student editors that have put a lot of time. They were even in here this weekend just to kind of format the newspaper edition of it and get it ready. And that's Claire Shenneman and Holly Downing. So I do want to recognize them. And then the last thing I want to mention, tonight was supposed to be an 8th grade scheduling course information night. We have moved that to the end of the month, just with everything going on with kids coming back blended, and a lot of other things that we kind of need to take care of right now. We moved that to the 25th. And I just want to recognize again our office staff are doing a really tremendous job of getting things ready in the school, including Scott Ropi, our custodian. So that's it for the high school.
Thank you, Joe. And then Dr. Carl's on curriculum and instruction.
Yeah, just 3 highlights. I think the board already knows this, but when we look at this time of the school year, or just a little before this, usually school report cards, Wisconsin State School and District report cards come out due to Wisconsin Act 185, and really state assessments, the majority of them, Wisconsin State assessments not occurring last year, there will not be school report cards that reflect last year's scores, and takes into account, of course, years before that as well. So no school report cards this year. But one thing you should know is that the Office of Educational Accountability has been working with a team of educational leaders in the state to look closely at the school report card and make some changes, sort of refinements to those. And so you'll probably start to hear about that potentially at your meeting that's coming up in a few weeks. But that's something that I'll bring to the curriculum committee and discuss with them as well, so they're aware, because there are some components of that that will shift how Lodi's being scored, specifically when you look at the section of the report card that focuses on closing the gaps, and for districts who potentially in the past did not have a lot of diversity or have many categories within that were being scored, that the way that category is going to be assessed is going to look quite differently, and so will impact us. And I can feel free to ask me a question if you have any questions on that, but I'll be sure to go over that at length with the curriculum committee of the board.
Yeah, sometime we should that should come to this meeting, when the report cards are at that point where they're gonna be evaluated, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you're aware, I served on that committee I was one of the members that served on the committee for the Office of Educational Accountability, looking over this new school report card. So I've had quite a bit of time looking at those. One last piece that I have on here as well is the 2021 Wisconsin State assessments. So last year, due to COVID, a number of the assessments around the state were canceled, right? We're aware of that. But this school year, as of now, the Department of Public Instruction has communicated that those assessments will occur. So we are planning for things like the access assessment for our EL learners, the dynamic learning math for our students with disabilities, the forward exam, etc. We anticipate that we'll continue to get some new information around that, but right now some of those assessment windows have been expanded. Some of the assessments themselves, like the forward exam, has been slightly condensed. So everything that we're getting from the Department of Public Instruction right now is that districts will be expected to give those assessments.
Okay, that's gonna be interesting.
Yes, it will be. But we'll be sure to let you know if anything changes.
It's one of the items on the resolution.
LCAT.
Just a real quick one, we were going to have a town hall or a panel discussion here in the next week. We decided to postpone that until after we get back into the school. We were hoping to do it to kind of help with the transition, but there's so many other things going on, as everybody's mentioned, that we will do a panel discussion probably in the next couple of weeks, where we'll have psychologists, police officers, school staff, counselors, and just the idea is to answer questions from parents about teen parenting and mental health issues and things like that. So we will get the word out. And then a plug for our website, just, we have a lot of good information and resources on there for mental health, for alcohol, tobacco, drugs, any questions that you have, and you can contact us through there as well if you have questions on how to navigate some of these challenges that we're going through.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany, Student Services.
Yeah, I had a couple of things. First thing being staffing. We're still working to staff all of our special ed programs with our educational assistants. So we still have at least 4 positions open in the district, and we've been struggling to find qualified people. So I just shout out to people in the community who are interested. Most of the positions are part-time positions. If you are interested in working with special needs students, reach out to me or to any of the school principals, and we will set up an interview and we can find some quality people. So shout out to the community on that one. And then second, we had our equity focused book discussion tonight. We had almost 90 people attend virtually, of course. And I had some great discussions around the next section of our book that we're reading, which is So You Want to Talk About Race. So lots of great discussion, and looking forward to further discussion. We just encourage the board, if you want a copy of the book or you want to join our discussion, we'd be happy to have you.
Okay, thank you. Amy at the primary school.
Just want to highlight again, just all the work that the staff has been putting into the transition as we move into the blended on January 19th. So just appreciate all the hard work from all of our staff that have been a part of that, and just also parents' partnership as we move into the next phase here. So.
Okay, thank you. District Administrator.
I would like to echo just what Amy said. Our staff has been phenomenal. The amount of time and effort and energy they bring each and every day, and what they've done in the online model and what they will bring to the blended model has just been phenomenal. So thank you to them. I also want to give a shout out to our directors and our administrative team as well, the hard work that they've had. We've come to our 6-month anniversary for 4 of our new administrators, Dr. Carls, Ms. Fossbender, Mr. Jelnick, and Mr. Marshall. So they have been we have a great team, and they've done a great job of working with staff through this process to make sure it's the best it possibly can be. So I'm just so proud of all of them. I wanted to let you know that we have put together a COVID dashboard that is now on the website. So again, providing more information, trying to be as transparent as possible with staff, with families in our community about the cases of COVID we have. Community members may not know, but every time we have a COVID case, a positive COVID case of people who are in our buildings, we send out an email that goes out to all of our staff to let them know that that has happened. This is just a summary. It allows us to, you have to go back and read through all the emails, how many cases have we had, but also lets you know about some of the close contacts and things of that, and we'll be updating that on a weekly basis moving forward. So thanks to Maureen Palmer and Jean Winters, our school nurse, for putting that together. Really appreciate that. And finally, on Wednesday, I will be joining our mayor, Lodi's mayor, Ann Groves Lloyd, for her podcast, A View from 202, to talk about school reopening at 6 p.m. on Wednesday.
Cool. So she's doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's all I have for now.
Board president report. So I want to touch on 2 things. So the Christmas Carol that the high school did the week before Christmas, which seems like an eternity, was only 3 weeks ago. I wanted to comment on what a wonderful job our students and staff did with the radio play version of A Christmas Carol, delivered on YouTube live. It was a little odd at first to hear the main character changed from male to female roles, but the actors were so good at playing their parts and delivering their lines with passion and emotion, had beautiful English accents, even though I'm sure some people were critical of them, that it quickly became a refreshing change to hear this Charles Dickens classic in a new way, and it was amazing. So I wanted to thank all of them for putting in on such a wonderful performance, and I hope to hear more radio plays and dramas in the future. It was a great way to reach people.
Is there a way for us to?
It was recorded, you can go back and listen to it.
Okay,
So,
and how do we do that?
and you have to use YouTube.
Oh, good.
We'll find you a tutor.
Yes.
If you contact Joe Jelnick, he will give you the link.
Okay.
And it will come up on your computer.
And then I'll
or
get bumped off.
Tyler
Okay.
can give it to you, and it will pop right up and you can listen to it.
All right.
They did a great job. And then let's talk about blended learning for a second. So next week, the district will embark on a whole new way of teaching students with the blended model of learning. This new model of teaching will no doubt be both different and possibly difficult at first for everyone. There will be necessary time for adjustment as everyone learns the new procedures and becomes comfortable with their new routines. Please continue to extend patience and understanding for all of our staff, our students, and parents as we begin to move forward in this new direction. Having personally witnessed the resolve of the Lodi community over the last few decades, I have no doubt we will continue confronting the unprecedented challenges of this pandemic together, guiding each other forward, helping each other wherever and however we can. Nick, did you have any report from a student perspective?
I do. So the staff and students are just wrapping up the first semester. It ends on Friday. And then some of the classes are having finals. Actually, I don't have any classes that are having finals, which is kind of nice. They're just finishing up the units that we're in. And the students deciding to come back to school are quite excited to get, some sense of normalcy, if that's the correct term anymore. Students are very happy that winter athletics are back to school. I talked to some students and they were, I guess upset is the word, but they just wanted a student section again, but the chances of that happening this year, who knows? And then the Advocate, our school newspaper, is busy giving us weekly updates.
Thank you. CISA 5.
Well, I went to, I'm part of CISA 5, and I really enjoy the innovative ideas that they have. I had no idea, I just didn't have no idea, I think I said that before. The amount of people that come to the CISA 5 to find things and to look for things, and they just have so much information out there. That's just a really great, I was surprised. I just didn't know, again, how much there was. And we had a very short meeting last time, which was different. Usually we have long meetings. We were supposed to have it was a short meeting because it was supposed to be a dinner meeting, and we couldn't have a dinner meeting, so. But we did have one meeting in person where I actually got to see people even though it was face masked. So that was pretty cool. And I think out of the, I think I probably choreographed about 8 of the schools, of the 12 schools that were there. I've choreographed about 8 of them. So that was kind of cool to see some of the same old people, which kind of scared me.
Okay, thank you. Co-curricular item report.
The varsity boys basketball team is currently 5 wins and 2 losses with a conference record of no wins and 1 loss. They won both of their games since coming back from winter break, beating Partyville 57-48 and Portage 52-48 last week. This week they play at home versus Lakeside Lutheran and Reedsburg. The varsity girls basketball team is currently 3 wins, 4 losses with a conference record of 2 wins and 1 loss. They won both of their games since coming back from winter break, beating River Valley 61-25 and Lakeside Lutheran 61-48 last week. This week they play at home versus Poinette and Watertown Luther Prep. The wrestling team is currently 2-2. They started the year off with a tough loss versus Janesville Parker, followed by wins against Janesville Craig and Jefferson. Last week they traveled to Mineral Point where they lost 18-52. Their next meet is Triangular versus Portage and Luther Prep. Due to space concerns in the Lodi High School gym, there will be no fans for this event. The dance team has been working on several routines and has performed once this year. Their performance will be on Tuesday, January 19th at 7 o'clock. Forensics has been practicing via Google Meet. Their first virtual tournament is scheduled for February 6th, hosted by Sun Prairie. Mock Trial has been participating in virtual meets over the past few weeks. They competed against Oregon High School and Brookfield Academy on Saturday the 9th. Several students won awards for Outstanding Witness and Outstanding Attorney. The team's next competition will be this coming Saturday for their Big Lodi tournament. Thank you.
OSC report.
We had a, excuse me, brief meeting. We talked about transitioning back into the buildings and blended learning and what that was going to look like, because they're not going to be able to have everybody in the one space. So they are going to have to utilize another classroom in the building for that too. And then the students again this year wrote letters for the Helping Hands for the Wisconsin State Journal, and 3 of those letters were chosen this year.
Board committee reports, contract review,
Did not meet.
curriculum,
Did not meet.
facility finance.
We did meet, and we had a presentation by a group that was looking at
Ionization.
Thank you, ionization in schools to help us kind of fight off flu, bacteria, COVID, all kinds of stuff. There'll be more to come on that. It's still kind of new technology, and we're in a lot of discussions and thinking about it. It's very expensive, is the other thing. We also went through the budget, which apparently none of you understand. But we did kind of review where we're at, and overall, I would agree with what Brent said earlier. I think right now we're looking in good shape, and we'll see what the rest of this fancy year has for us.
And then policy.
Did not meet.
Okay, thank you. Future meeting and agenda items are listed there for you and on your calendar. And we do not have.
There is one question regarding, we are scheduled to meet Tuesday for curriculum and policy.
Okay.
Next, this coming week, you also have 3 days of State Education Convention, so do you still want to meet on Tuesday? Right, I'm just trying to think, we just got done talking about how much time we're spending, right?
It's
So
still good for me, yes.
to give you a Wednesday and a Thursday, now add a Tuesday night meeting to a Wednesday, all day Thursday, do you want us to push those meetings? Because there's nothing really pressing. Policy is the board self-evaluation, which is really pressing, but that again is not, we're doing that right now.
It would be okay to move it to the next
On
one.
curriculum, there's nothing really urgent, I don't think, is there?
We have 2 curriculum groups, content groups coming to speak, but we can talk to them. I'm sure they'll meet on Wednesday. They can talk about adjusting if needed.
Yeah, we can move it to the next one.
What do you want to do, Julie?
Doesn't matter to me.
So,
Either way.
policy, is
On
Barb,
policy.
you're okay with next month?
With waiting a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's done. Who's on curriculum?
Julie, me,
Great.
and, no.
Not me,
You 3.
right there. Okay, so
Oh.
you guys have to decide if you want to do it this month or next month.
Yes.
I'd go do it the following month,
I'm with you.
Okay.
because I really want
There
to,
you go.
So we'll change it.
So,
Okay.
I'm
We'll push
gonna
them
have
both.
that thing down. So would it be February 17th then? Because they're usually on Wednesdays, correct?
right.
Yeah, we would push it to the February date, so I can look at what that would be.
Third Wednesday is the 17th.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
What's
Yeah,
the date?
February
It's
17th.
17th,
February 17th?
yeah.
Yes.
That'd be the regular scheduled time.
So we're just canceling this meeting.
Right.
Just moving them on to the next
We'll
one.
just move it.
We do not need to return to closed session, so can I get a motion? To adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Bill to adjourn and a second by Shelley. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to adjourning? 7-0, we're now done.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.